Hello and welcome to My Daily Trivia. I'm your host, Danny, and today is Monday, July 31st. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope you had a great weekend. If this is your first time listening, I want to say welcome. My Daily Trivia is a 10-round quiz show with no specific themes, topics, or categories. We do, however, have a new episode every day, Monday through Friday, with each day getting progressively harder. So, we're starting off the week a little easy today. Today is Monday. It's going to be the easiest day of our week. And as always, if you find this episode to be challenging, I encourage you to continue to listen throughout the week. You never know, you might surprise yourself and you might know a couple of answers. And hey, even if you don't, you might learn something. Then again, if you find this episode to be relatively simple, maybe too simple, not to worry, tomorrow's going to get a little bit more difficult. So, without further delay, let's get into today's round of questions with question number 1. Which continent is the smallest inland area? And that continent is Oceania. Oceania is a geographical region that includes Australasia, Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Spanning the eastern and western hemispheres, Oceania is estimated to have a land area of 3 million square miles. That's roughly 8.5 million square kilometers, and a population of around 44 million. Oceania is described as a geographical region in most of the English-speaking world, but outside of the English-speaking world, Oceania is described as one of the continents. The first settlers of Australia, New Guinea, and the large islands just to the east arrived more than 60,000 years ago, and Europeans began exploring the area in the 16th century. Oceania is home to the only country in the world that is situated in all four hemispheres, the country of Kiribati. So, smallest continent in land area is Oceania. Moving on to question 2. Which language is most widely spoken in South America? That language is, of course, Spanish. Spanish is the most spoken of all languages in South America due to the Spanish explorers' influence of the 13 countries in the South American continent. There are 9 countries whose official language is Spanish. Those countries, in alphabetical order, are Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, and Venezuela. The term South American Spanish is sometimes used as a broader name for the dialects of Spanish spoken on the continent, but such a term is only geographical and has little or no linguistic relevance. The next most spoken languages are Portuguese, Ochuwa, and English. There are also a number of indigenous languages, with over 135 indigenous languages in Brazil alone. Moving on to question 3. Who is often referred to as the King of Pop and is known for hit songs like Billie Jean, Thriller, and Beat It? The King of Pop was American singer-songwriter Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is regarded as one of the most significant cultural figures of the 20th century and one of the most successful and influential entertainers of all time. Often referred to as the King of Pop, his achievements helped him complete the desegregation of popular music in the United States and introduced an era of multiculturalism and integration that future generations of artists followed. His influence extended to inspiring fashion trends and raising awareness for social causes around the world. His death was actually such a cultural impact, it quite literally broke the internet. On June 25th, 2009, several websites across the net all crashed at the same time at approximately 3:15 in the afternoon when it was first announced. I myself at the time was camping in New Mexico and didn't hear about it for several days until I met someone else on the trail. They mentioned it to me in passing. So, King of Pop, Michael Jackson. Moving on to question 4. Which U.S. national park is known for its geothermal features, including geysers and hot springs, such as Old Faithful? And that national park is Yellowstone National Park. Yellowstone National Park preserves more than 10,000 hydrothermal features, an extraordinary collection of hot springs, mud pots, fumaroles, travertine lines, and of course, geysers. In fact, Yellowstone is home to half of the world's hydrothermal features, microorganisms called thermophiles, which means heat-loving, live in these features and give the park its brilliant colors. If you've been there, you know what I mean. It is truly brilliant, and if you haven't been there, I encourage you to look it up. Look up the colors of those thermophiles. Established in 1872, Yellowstone was the first national park in the United States and is also widely held to be the first national park in the world. Yellowstone spans an area of 3,400 square miles, which is roughly equivalent to about 9,000 square kilometers. It comprises of lakes, canyons, rivers, and mountain ranges. It also has an abundant and diverse population of wildlife, with the largest concentration of mammals in the lower 48 states. Moving on to question 5. What is the study of Earth's atmosphere and its weather patterns called? And the answer there is meteorology. Meteorology is a branch of the atmospheric sciences that focuses on weather forecasting. The study of meteorology dates back millennia, with early attempts at predicting weather that were often related to prophecy, divinity, or astrological ideas. It was not until after the elucidation of the laws of physics, and more particularly in the latter half of the 20th century, the development of the computer, that significant breakthroughs in weather forecasting were finally achieved. The word meteorology means in the sky and study, coming from the Greek words meteoros and logia. Aristotle wrote about meteorology in approximately 350 BC, and he's widely considered by many to be meteorology's founder. Moving on to question 6. Which Asian country is known as the land of the rising sun? The land of the rising sun is Japan. The word Japan is an exonym, meaning it is used by other countries other than Japan. But the Japanese names for Japan are Nihon and Nippon, both of which literally mean the sun's origin, that is, where the sun originates, and are often translated as the land of the rising sun. That's where they get their name. This nomenclature comes from imperial correspondence with the Chinese Sui dynasty and refers to Japan's eastern position relative to China. From China, this gives the impression that the sun rises from China. The Japanese flag embodies the country's reputation as the land of the rising sun, with a white rectangular banner bearing a crimson red circle at its center. So, Japan, also known as the land of the rising sun. Moving on to question 7. Which country is located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia and is the largest country in the world by land area? And that country is Russia. The largest country in the world is Russia, with a total area of 6 million square miles. That's equivalent to roughly 17 million square kilometers, equivalent to 11% of the total world's landmass. Russia's vast landmass stretches over the easternmost part of Europe and the northernmost part of Asia. It is home to 9 major mountain ranges, the world's largest lake in Lake Baikal, and over 100,000 rivers. That number impressed me. 100,000 rivers in one country. It is so big that it is larger than 3 continents and has the same surface area as Pluto. So, Russia, biggest country in the world by far. Moving on to question 8. Which European explorer is credited with discovering America in 1492? And that European explorer was Christopher Columbus. You can always remember it's Christopher Columbus with the little jingle. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Christopher Columbus was an Italian explorer and navigator from the Republic of Genoa in modern-day Italy, who completed 4 Spanish-based voyages across the Atlantic Ocean, opening the way for the widespread European exploration and European colonization of the Americas. His expeditions were the first known European contact with the Caribbean and Central and South America. Columbus was partially inspired by 13th century Italian explorer Marco Polo in his ambitions to explore Asia. And Columbus, he never fully admitted his failure to make it there, to make it to Asia. He incessantly claimed and pointed to supposed evidence that he had actually reached the East Indies. For this reason, the Bahamas, as well as the islands of the Caribbean, have ever since been referred to as the West Indies. Christopher Columbus, the European explorer, credited with discovering America. Moving on to question 9. Which war lasted from 1914 to 1918 and involved many countries around the world, ultimately leading to significant political and territorial change? And that war, of course, was World War I, or the First World War. World War I was one of the deadliest global conflicts in history. It was fought between 2 coalitions, the Allies and the Central Powers. Fighting took place throughout Europe, the Middle East, Africa, the Pacific, and parts of Asia. An estimated 9 million soldiers were killed in combat, plus another 23 million wounded, while 5 million civilians died as a result of military action, hunger, and disease. Millions more died as a result of genocide, while the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic was exacerbated by the movement of combatants during the war. Other names for World War I include the War to End All Wars, the War of the Nations, the Great War, and the First World War. Moving on to question 10, our final question of the day. What is the natural phenomenon called that is caused by the refraction, reflection, and dispersion of sunlight in water droplets, resulting in a spectrum of colors in the sky? And despite the maybe complicated sounding question, the answer is fairly simple. It's a rainbow. A rainbow is an optical phenomenon that can occur under certain conditions. It is caused by refraction, internal reflection, and dispersion of light in water droplets, resulting in a continuous spectrum of light appearing in the sky. The rainbow takes the form of a multicolored circular arc. Rainbows caused by sunlight always appear in the section of the sky directly opposite of the sun. The word rainbow comes from the Latin phrase arcus pluvius, meaning rainy arch, and the state of Hawaii actually has the most rainbows on the planet. So that was the rainbow, and that was our last question of the day. So this concludes our round of My Daily Trivia. If you found this round to be simple, that's great. I encourage you to check in tomorrow, Tuesday. It's going to be just a little bit more challenging. And of course, if you found this round to be maybe a little hard, you should always listen anyway. You never know when you might learn something. As always, I encourage you to recommend us to friends and family. We would love to grow the community here at My Daily Trivia. Once again, I want to thank each of you for listening to My Daily Trivia. I'm your host, Danny, and I will see you tomorrow.